Hey guys, how's it going? We're back at it again with our unit on quadrilaterals this time. We're going to be taking a look at chapter 6, which again, as I said, is based on quadrilaterals. So we're going to actually go further into it than you have probably in the past in some of your previous classes. We're actually going to be taking a look at all the different types of quadrilaterals that we have, and we're going to be able to identify and classify them according to certain traits and certain characteristics that they each have, which makes them all completely different. All right, but in the end, these all come back to our basic, our most fundamental part of this unit, which is exactly that, quadrilaterals. Okay, so quadrilaterals right from the top. Let's go ahead and get started. Let me write my. Hopefully, I spelled this correct. So quadrilaterals, very top, okay? So there's, again, this is going to branch down. Everything under this, this top portion is going to be considered a quadrilateral. However, the characteristics that are going to come up a little bit later on in here are going to make these each distinct in their own special way, okay? But one thing that all quadrilaterals have right off the bat is this. They definitely all have four sides, okay? All quadrilaterals are four-sided figures. Okay, parallels, trapezoids, kites, circles, angles, rhombuses, squares, all that. Those will all have four sides. Okay, so that's definitely one fundamental characteristic of quadrilaterals. Okay. Second fundamental characteristic here is that the interior angles of all quadrilaterals will add to 360 degrees. Okay, they will add to 360 degrees. Okay, so whether we're talking about any of these subsets of quadrilaterals below, they will all definitely have these two characteristics. They will have four sides, and they will all add up to have interior angles of 360 degrees. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at parallelograms. I think out of all of these, the ones that you're going to be seeing the most of are parallelograms. Okay, notice in parallelograms, okay, this continues branching down to rectangles, rhombuses or rhombi, and squares. Okay, so let's go ahead and identify a few key features of parallelograms. All right, first one here is that a parallelogram has opposite sides that are parallel. Okay, so its opposite sides will be parallel. Okay, and just to kind of show you that, let me go ahead and draw a quick little picture here. Okay, so I'm going to draw a real quick parallelogram. Okay, all right, I'm going to show that it has opposite sides that are parallel. So this side is parallel to that side. This side is parallel to this side. Okay. All right, let's go back to our characteristics here. Next thing is that opposite sides are congruent. So opposite sides are congruent. Okay. So basically, this side is the same length as this side. This side is the same length as that side. All right. Next thing here is that opposite angles are also congruent. Okay, so let's keep going here. Again, what does that mean? That means that this angle here is the same measure as that angle there, and this angle here is the same measure as that angle there. Okay, so these first three characteristics here can be seen in this parallelogram right here. Okay, there are two other characteristics that parallelograms parallelograms have, and I'm going to draw those in separate parallelograms here. So the first one here is this. The diagonals bisect each other. So what does that mean? Okay, let's go ahead and draw another parallelogram here. So what does that mean? That means this. That means if I have this diagonal here and this diagonal there, that means that this side is the same as, I'm sorry, that half, or I'm sorry, each of the diagonals bisect each other, which means this half is the same as that half, and this half is the same as this half. Okay? So they just basically cross, the diagonals cross, and they cut each other in half. Okay? We don't know their specific lengths, we just know that they definitely cut each other in half. Right? And then finally, the last bit here, this, it is that consecutive angles are supplementary, meaning they add up to be 180 degrees. And let me again show you that on a separate parallelogram here. Okay? So let me explain what this means. If my laptop were working. Okay, here we go. So what does that mean? That means, like, for example, this is 100 degrees. Okay, well, a consecutive angle means just one that's next to it, okay, right after that. So that means, for example, this one here is a consecutive angle, and it has to be 80, okay? The reason why it has to be 80 is because all consecutive angles in parallelogram are supplementary, okay? Having said that, then this consecutive angle, the one that's below the 100, that also has to be 80. And once again, the consecutive angle 80 has to also help add up to be 180. So it has to be 100 degrees. Okay? So just keep those things in mind. And I realize, guys, I drew 3 different parallelograms here. But again, those were just to show you the characteristics. But every single parallelogram will have every single one of these. Okay? Every single parallelogram will have every single one of those traits, along with all the ones that we learned up top, which applies to any quadrilateral, that is four-sided figure and the interior angles that are 360. Okay? Alright, let's keep going. Now, even further, so this rectangle and rhombuses here, those are going to have also the same traits that we have for parallelograms, but with some additional ones. Go ahead and find our additional traits for rectangles. Right? And one of the additional traits for rectangles is that it has 4 right angles. Okay? It has 4, whoops, sorry, my laptop is lagging a little bit here. Okay, it has 4 right angles, guys. Alright? And the other thing that it has is that you have congruent angles. Okay? So let me go ahead and explain that real quick. So the first part is that it has 4 right angles. That just means that in a rectangle you have 90-degree angles all around. Okay? Which makes sense because we said that for a quadrilateral we have to add up to be 360. Okay, well 90 times 4, that would be your 360. Okay? And even though I'm gonna erase this in a second, the second part says that the rectangles have congruent diagonals. That just means that this length here has to be the same as this length there. Okay, so just go ahead and keep that in mind. Let me erase this real quick. Alright. Alright, so the next one up was rhombus. All right, so a rhombus, or again plural, would be rhombi. I believe, I have to double check that, but I believe it is rhombi or rhombus, whichever way you want to say it for now. But basically, characteristics that these have in special for rhombi is that it has different sides, meaning this side is the same as this side, is the same as this side, is the same as that side. And then finally, you have perpendicular diagonals. And I totally misspelled diagonals. There we go. Okay, so we have perpendicular diagonals. What does that mean? And again, I'm going to erase this in a second. But if I make my diagonal here, all that means is that this creates a 90-degree angle right about there. All right, so just keep that in mind. Let me go ahead and erase that just so it doesn't interfere with our writing here. There we go. Okay, so again, this goes all the way back. So a rectangle has those two special characteristics. However, it also has to fulfill all the requirements that a parallelogram had, as well as all the requirements and characteristics that a quadrilateral has. Okay. Finally, we get to square. Right? We can say, we can argue that square is the most special of all the quadrilaterals. Okay, because it has so many traits to satisfy. And within itself, what sets it apart are these four additional traits. Right now. So the next additional trait for this particular trait is that square has four right angles. Okay. It has four congruent sides. Okay, so let me go ahead and do that. So four right angles. Okay. Four congruent sides. Alright, the next thing is that it has congruent and perpendicular diagonal. I'll draw that in a second. And then finally is that squares also. Actually, I thought there was one more, but I think that's it. Alright, so what did we mean by that last one? We have parallel and, I'm sorry, we have congruent and perpendicular diagonals. Is that if I were to draw this diagonal here and this diagonal there, okay, those two would be congruent, okay? So meaning that if the length of my first diagonal was 20, then the length of my second diagonal has to also be 20. Not only that, they create a 90-degree angle here, okay? So they are perpendicular and they are congruent, right? Let's go ahead and erase this. And that is squares, guys. So notice it had similar traits to the two above, rectangles and rhombuses, right? We have four right angles, which is a trait from a rectangle, but we also have four congruent sides, which is a trait from the rhombus, right? And finally, we actually combine these two. Sorry about that, guys. We combine this trait here and this trait there to come up with our last trait. Okay, it has parallel. It has congruent and perpendicular diagonals. Okay. All right. So let me go ahead and erase this real quick. Now we are going to move on from parallelograms onto trapezoids. So let's go ahead and take a look at trapezoids. One of the things that trapezoids do have that's particular to trapezoids is that they only have one side or one pair of sides that is parallel. Okay, one pair of sides is parallel, right? These other two sides, right here, this one, this one, those are not parallel. Okay, only the top and bottom. All right, and then finally, if we look to a more specific type of trapezoid, we have what's called the isosceles, and that has a few additional things on here, a few additional traits. Okay, that distinguish it from any other. First off, is that congruent legs. Okay, okay. Well, which one's congruent? Well, let's see. So remember, think about an isosceles triangle, right, guys? We have two sides that are congruent, and then the third side is different. Okay, so in this case, we have these two sides that are congruent. So those are my legs. We have congruent legs. We also have congruent base angles. Congruent base angles. Okay, what does that mean? That means that this angle is the same as this angle. Okay, again, if you think back to isosceles triangle, we know that if we have two sides that are congruent, then our base angles must also be congruent. Same thing applies here, guys, because essentially this is isosceles trapezoid is just a regular isosceles triangle with the top piece cut off. If I cut that off, right? Oops. Let me go ahead and erase this real quick. Try this again. So if I cut that top piece off, then essentially we have an isosceles trapezoid. All right. There's one last thing here that I did not make a line for, so let's just write it right underneath. And it is all isosceles trapezoids have congruent diagonals. So again, just like before, like we saw on other quadrilaterals here, is that this length is the same as this length. Okay, we don't know anything about being perpendicular, nothing like that. We just know that they are congruent. Okay, all right. So one last thing that I did not draw in, my bad. So those base angles were congruent, but that means these two base angles are also congruent. All right, so just make sure you draw those in. All right, let's move on to kites. Let's finish off our quadratics family tree here. So for kites, first special trait that it has is it has two pairs of adjacent sides. Okay, it has two pairs of adjacent sides. Well, what does that mean? It means this. Oh, my bad, I forgot. It has two pairs of congruent adjacent sides, which means this is congruent to that. This is congruent to that. Okay. The next thing that I have is that I have perpendicular diagonals. Go ahead and do that. I have perpendicular diagonals. Okay, well, what does that mean again? That means this. That means that if I were to draw my diagonals here, down the middle there, and right across here, I would have a right angle right there. Okay? Again, I'm not going to leave that on there because I don't want it to interfere with the rest of our special traits here. Okay? Alright, and there is one more trait that we have to still write in, and it is this. one of the diagonals is bisect. And for that, I'm actually going to go ahead and draw a different kite here to show you guys that as an example. Okay, so if I draw a different one here, let's go ahead and draw a kite. You probably draw a better one than I can. Actually, let me do a better job than that. That looks pretty horrible. Let's try this again. Still not great, but you guys get the idea here. All right, so let me go ahead and draw my diagonals. So we know not only that those diagonals will create a 90-degree angle here, but we are also stating this final statement here that one of the diagonals is bisect. Hopefully you guys can see here, these two are the ones that are congruent. Those two halves were bisected by the other diagonal. As you guys can see, this one right here, let me retry that again. So this piece right here will be shorter than this piece here, and that is why that diagonal does not get bisected. Only the one that runs across. Okay. All right. Let's see. Did we get it all? Let me go ahead and zoom out here for a second. So remember, guys, this kind of works upward. Okay. So what makes each of these shapes, each of these quadrilaterals special is the fact that they hold those particular characteristics that we just wrote in. So those are the only ones that apply to that particular shape. So only squares have 4 right angles, congruent sides, and congruent and perpendicular diagonals. And I don't know why I erased that. Okay, but it also holds all the stuff above it. Okay, it also holds all the qualities of rectangles, all the qualities of rhombuses, all the qualities of parallelograms, all the qualities of a regular quadrilateral. Okay, so it kind of works upwards, guys. Okay, but these are all of the traits that you will be encountering in this unit 6 on quadrilaterals. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually go ahead and stop the video here. And please move on to your quadrilaterals chart. Okay, you're going to need to use this, what we just completed right now, in your quadrilaterals chart. Okay, so please make sure you have all these written down somewhere so we can go ahead and move on to the last piece before we get started with any of the practices. Alright guys, have a good one, and I'll see you later.